Some days ago, I spoke about the Four Noble Truths that were realized and taught by the Buddha. The truth of suffering, dukkha sacca. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya sacca. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha sacca. And the truth of the good path of practice leading to the cessation of suffering, magga sacca. And I mentioned that in everyday language, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all mind and matter which happens within us are dukkha sacca, or the truth of suffering. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, bending, stretching, leaning, lifting, moving, placing, the body doing various things. In our being, mind and matter are occurring together. In everyday language, whatever mental and physical group occurs, such as seeing, is dukkha sacca, the truth of suffering. And tanha, which takes pleasure in this and craves it, is samudaya sacca, the truth of the cause of suffering. Thinking this is really good, thinking that seeing is really good, it takes pleasure. Wanting to see, wanting to hear, wanting to smell, taste, touch, and think good things, wanting better and better things, only being satisfied if it gets what it wants. All of these, taking pleasure, craving, and clinging, are samudaya sacca, the truth of the cause of suffering. And I mentioned that in the practice, we work to know the truth of suffering. The truth of suffering is to be realized. And we work to eliminate the cause of suffering. The truth of the cause is to be dispelled. We do this by observing every arising mind and matter in our being, starting in sitting with the rising and falling of the abdomen. As soon as it arises, applying aim and effort. We work with the first two truths. And when we do this, the latter two truths, the truth of the cessation of suffering, that is, the cessation of this continual stream of mind and matter, and the truth of the path leading to it, these two naturally arise. They arise naturally through the application of the practice. So this is what I spoke about before. The first two of the Noble Truths are called worldly truths, and the latter two are called the supramundane truths. They're the ones that are beyond the world. The truth of suffering and the truth of its cause are hard to see. Because they are hard to see, they are profound. Although they are hard to see and therefore profound, it is said in the text, I'll say the Pali first, Kambirampi patipaka vidamanena supakatang bhaveya. It is said that by removing the nivaranas, the obstacles which oppose mental development, or bhavana, by removing these obstacles, by blowing them away with the three trainings of sila, samadhi, and panya, the profound Dhamma becomes obvious and easy to see. These two truths, the truth of suffering and the truth of its cause, become easy to see because of having removed the obstacles. And the texts explain further that this removal of the obstacles, the nivaranas, depends on systematic practice. Patipaka vidamanang pana samapati pati patibaddhang. So, in order to have systematic practice, this means that we have to listen to the method from a truly good friend, called in Pali a Kalyāṇamittā. One has to study the method. And that good friend, or Kalyāṇamittā, is one who possesses 7 qualities. These are, first of all, piya, P-I-Y-A. The person is dear. The person is dear because of his or her basic good basic morality. Such a person is called piya in Pali. And this quality is very important to have, the quality of good basic morality. Even if someone is not well liked by those around them, if their behavior is, if they have good basic morality, at least they will be free of blame. And this is not insignificant, to be free of blame from those around one. Every person, in fact, should have this quality of being dear, of being piya. Everyone should be a true human with a truly human mind and fulfill the basic responsibility of a human to keep the 5 precepts. This is not only for the teachings of the Buddha, this is for the entire world. This is a standard. The second quality is guru. Guru is very similar to the word that we know, guru. It comes from the same root. Guru means the person is respected. And in this case, it means that instead of one who is guru, instead of keeping what one has for oneself, one gives to others. One works to make one's own actions and speech civilized and refined, and one instructs others in all ways, without regard for fame or material reward. So one who gives like this to others without any expectation of getting anything back, that person is respected for this, and therefore they're called guru. Guru also means teacher. So that is the second quality. The third quality is called bhavaniya, and this means if one has the qualities of being dear because of one's good basic morality, and of being respected for one's generosity, one's giving without any expectation of payback, then it follows that the person will receive the loving kindness of those who approach that person. The students will feel, may our teacher, the one on whom we are relying, be happy. May everything be okay for this person. So one who receives the loving kindness, the compassion, and the sympathetic joy, especially the loving kindness or metta of those around him or her, is called bhavaniya. So this quality of bhavaniya simply comes from the first 2 qualities. One doesn't need to do anything to create this quality. One doesn't need to make others respect one or make others have metta for one. One just behaves according to what one knows is true, one's own nature. So a teacher must have basic morality as a foundation, which is the cause for being dear or piya. And one should give freely to the extent that one can, without regard for personal gain. One should help others and correct them. This is the cause for being respected, or guru. And if one does this, then one will automatically receive the metta of others, and bhavaniya, this quality of bhavaniya, will exist. The fourth quality is called vatta, V-A-T-T, long A. So if we think about what's involved in having the first three qualities, one has good basic morality, one is generous, one has a good mental attitude, and is well loved by others, that is piya, guru, and bhavaniya, then because of the good qualities in oneself, to whatever extent one has them, it becomes easy to speak to others, to instruct them. If one has neither knowledge nor practice, it's not easy to tell others what to do. So if one has followed a good path and realized good results, then when one instructs others, one just wants them to prosper. One doesn't teach so that people will be bad. One doesn't have that aim. Because of knowing oneself what is the good path to follow, and wanting others to gain good things too, then one will surely be able to tell those who come to one, tell them not to do what is unbeneficial. One will stop them from doing what is unbeneficial, and will instruct them to do what brings benefit. And for the most part, one who has this quality of vatta, V-A-T-T-A, becomes able to instruct others in what brings benefit. The Buddha himself practiced, and after that, with compassion for beings and wanting them to have what is good, he simply spoke about the Dhamma which he had learned. He spoke about how to do dana, or giving. He spoke about how sila, or morality, is good, how to make one's mind pure and to develop knowledge, how to remove one's mistaken beliefs and to make the path of one's life straight, how to become free of the suffering of existence. Being able to tell others things like this is called vatta, and this is very good. The fifth quality is called vacana, V-A-C-A-N-A-K-K-H-A-M-A. When one is a teacher, sometimes one will receive criticism. Maybe people don't like something they see. Maybe they want to put the teacher down. But it may be people within one's own group. It may be people from outside the group. From time to time, one is bound to receive criticism. And one has to be able to receive it patiently. Whenever one has been criticized, one has to be patient. There should be no response of anger or retort. One should bear it patiently. So this is the quality of vacana kamma. The sixth quality is called gambiram katankata. That means that one is able to speak about the profound Dhamma. Because one knows that practice is truly beneficial and has practiced oneself systematically according to whatever time one has, so that one's acts, speech, and mind are as free as possible from fault, then one will surely be able to instruct others. One will also be able to speak about the profound Dhamma. Although one might not have studied anything to begin with, if one has learned over time through practice, one learns thoroughly, just like one learned the ABCs. If one is always going along this path of practice, one won't forget. People who know the path can surely guide others. They also are able to speak about the deep and profound Dhamma. If one is instructing others, one will surely have the strong wish that they also know what is true and beneficial. And this is called Gambhira Kalyāṇamittā, being able to speak about the deep and profound Dhamma. Profound words of Dhamma, Gambhira Kalyāṇamittā, means the practice of Satipatthana that we're practicing now, and the Four Noble Truths that one comes to see, dispel, realize, develop because of practicing Satipatthana, the cause and effect cycle of dependent origination called Paticca Samuppada. These topics are hard to see, and therefore they are deep and profound. So these sorts of topics are what is meant by Gambhira Kalyāṇamittā, profound words of Dhamma. One is able to speak about these to instruct according to the instruction of the Buddha. One doesn't instruct others according to one's own ideas, but according to what they have seen. And that is deeper. So this quality also must be present for a teacher. Because one has practiced the profound Dhamma extensively, it is easy to teach others. It becomes very easy. And when one teaches, one can speak so that there's nothing left out, nothing lacking, and especially so that there's nothing incorrect. One comes to have this ability. Nowadays, some people learn a little bit from one teacher, and then they hear another teacher is good. So they go to him or her and learn a little bit. Then they hear another teacher is good, so they go to that teacher and learn some more. And as they go from teacher to teacher, they take notes. And then they make a collection of their notes, and they use this to teach others. And so one has to be very careful about this situation. It's not good to teach something if one doesn't already know it oneself through practice. It's good to teach only after one has learned and practiced extensively. And if one goes the wrong way in teaching, so that one is also erring, and so are the people following one, then this is a very serious fault. When teaching others, if one just says what one thinks, without really knowing that experientially, that also is not good. This can happen. People say what they think, but don't really know. And in this case, there won't be any personal experiential knowledge involved, and there will also not be any theoretical knowledge. So when we hear those types of words, when we hear people say something that they think but don't really know, what they are saying is not going to be clear. and the listener is going to have doubt. The doubts arise because there's nothing practical involved in what the teacher says. When one has gone oneself to a true good friend, a true Kalyāṇamittā, and come to know and see because of practicing, according to the Buddha's instruction, with respect, meticulous care, and continuity, then even though one hasn't studied scriptures, one can tell others how one practiced. One can't be a teacher yet, but one can explain how, if the student does this, that will happen. If they do this, something else will happen. So the person can instruct like this, and that is what is meant by saying what we see and really know. One has to say what one has come to see with the eye of knowledge. And if one speaks like that to others, the person who is being instructed will surely have faith and confidence, because what is said contains knowledge. So it is very important to understand the effect of saying what we think but don't really know what will happen. Doubts will arise. If we say what we see and really know, then faith will arise because there is knowledge involved. One has to be very careful not to become a notebook teacher, someone who goes to one teacher after another collecting notes. So to continue, practical experience is needed. To be able to speak about the Dhamma, which is hard to see and therefore profound, combining theory and practice so that the listener can understand, can only happen if one has practiced oneself. One has to have practiced Satipatthana the way the yogis are practicing now. Even the basic knowledge of mind and matter, nama and rupa, is difficult to see. It is difficult to see how they are related as cause and effect. Only after one has seen how these dhammas, which are related as cause and effect, arise and pass away moment by moment, how they are suffering or unsatisfactory, how they arise and pass away according to their own nature, without any inherent self. Only after vipassana knowledge arises stage by stage and becomes complete. At the end of this, one sees the cessation, the ending of arising and passing away, which is called apavata or nibbana. At that stage, the third noble truth, the truth of cessation, the Dhamma, is profound. And because it is profound, it is difficult to see. The peace of Nibbana is extremely profound. Therefore, it is hard to see. The first two truths, the truth of suffering and the truth of its cause, are profound because they are hard to see. The second two truths, the truth of Nibbana and the path leading to it, are hard to see because they are profound. If vipassana knowledge has arisen because of practicing the Dhamma as now, with respect and meticulous care, then what is hard to see becomes visible. Because one has removed the dirt of the opposing factors, the nivaranas, with one's practice, the Dhamma is sure to become evident and clear. If one reaches at least the stage of Sotapanna, stream winner, it becomes even more clear. It's important to gain this type of ability the ability to speak about the Dhamma from personal experience. If one hasn't yet reached the stage of Sotapanna, then one should at least be quite close to it. Then one will be able to speak when Vipassana knowledge has become quite complete. And this is the sixth quality a Kalyāṇamittā, or good friend, needs, the ability to speak about the profound Dhamma. When one is practiced to satisfaction, on one hand, and on the other hand, one has a basic knowledge of the scriptures because one has studied, then one's situation is quite good because one can combine these two, theory and practice. And knowing what is true and beneficial, one can instruct others. Then one can teach according to the extent of one's own knowledge. If one tries to teach others without any real foundation, without correcting oneself, then problems can arise. And when one remembers how one has made mistakes in this regard, one will feel regret, and it will be a heavy burden. So it's important to be careful about this. One should understand that before one teaches others, one should work to become fulfilled oneself. One has to practice respectfully and continuously without a break. If you want to give something to a person who is very poor, for example, if you want to give food to a person who is very poor, you can only do so if you have more than enough for yourself to eat. It's not easy to go hungry all the time and still give to others. Only if you have something extra can you give to others. In just that way, only if you have enough knowledge in yourself can you urge or teach others. To not have any knowledge yourself, but to try to teach others, doesn't work. And finally, after having made a mistake, one has to endure criticism. So the Buddha warned people in the Dhammapada. He said, Atanameva patamang patirupe niveseye. That first of all, get yourself into good shape. Fulfill the ability in yourself. Gain the necessary ability yourself first. This is very important. Only instruct another after you yourself are fulfilled. Only then will you be free of criticism. When one is free of criticism like this, it's not wearisome to teach. One doesn't suffer. And this is a good warning. The seventh quality of a Kalyāṇamittā, or good friend. One has qualifications oneself to some extent, but there's something else that one has to take care with, which is one has to take care not to get mentally unbalanced and use those who depend on you in an unsuitable way, in a way that is for your benefit, but not for the benefit of the students. Don't use your students. That is nochatane niyojako. This means, literally, don't use others in an inappropriate, unbeneficial way. The teacher should only employ is the word, give students tasks in a truly beneficial way. The teacher should give them a place to do what is appropriate for them. That quality also is very important, and only someone who has all these 7 qualities can be considered a good friend, a Kalyāṇamittā. To be dear, to be respected, to be the object of others' metta, to be able to speak frankly, to others, to be able to receive criticism, to be able to speak the profound words of Dhamma, and to not use the students inappropriately. So now I want to summarize what I have said so far, very briefly. Seeing the profound Dhamma depends on removing the obstacles which hide it. Removing the obstacles depends on systematic practice. Systematic practice depends on listening to the Dhamma of the wise. One who can speak about the Dhamma has the 7 qualities of a good friend that I just mentioned. So, to continue, listening to the Dhamma of the wise depends on faith in the person who is teaching and in what they are teaching. So to explain, a person with the qualities just mentioned, when we humans see that person, when other beings see that person, they will consider that person is very praiseworthy. A person with the 7 qualities just mentioned. The person will have the quality of being well respected. If that sort of individual is promoting something good, then people will be very interested in it. They will think that it is something even better than the individual whom they revere. So, when people see that someone whom they revere makes the request, for example, to the Buddha to teach, then they become very interested. They think, oh, the Buddha is greater than the one whom we revere. The one whom we think highly of is on his knees before the Buddha. This means the Buddha isn't an ordinary person. He must be faith. He must be very special. Some people may not understand what I'm talking about, but some people may. So it is said in the text that faith and respect in the teacher and in the Dhamma he taught, they arise at first from the request to teach by a highly revered being. This means that what this is referring to is that when the Buddha first became enlightened, he didn't teach right away. He didn't teach immediately. But the great Brahma came to him and asked him to teach. And then from that point he taught. So I will explain a little bit more. During the days before the Buddha appeared, in India, most people revered and worshipped this Maha-Brahma, great Brahma, who was a celestial being. They thought that this great Brahma lives forever. They themselves do not, but he does. They thought of him as a supreme being, Parama Atta, the supreme being who rules them and who created them. They thought that the soul inside them was given to them by this Maha-Brahma. And it was this Maha-Brahma that asked the Buddha to teach. When the Buddha first became enlightened, he reflected on how deep and profound and hard to see the Dhamma is. And it also occurred to him that people like sense pleasures. Most people are really stuck in the world of sense pleasures. And so at first, his mind inclined towards not teaching. And the great Brahma saw this. And so he went to the Buddha and he made the request, out of compassion for the world, please teach. There are some beings in the world with just a little bit of dust covering their eyes. They will be able to see this Dhamma. So this Mahabrahma, who was worshipped by the people of India as their supreme creator, he was actually a disciple of the Buddha, because under a previous Buddha, he had practiced meditation and he had become enlightened. So when he saw that the Buddha went, at first, because he knew that the nature of people was very coarse and not in keeping with the subtle Dhamma, he didn't preach, although he had some inclination to, and the great Brahma came to him. So this great Brahma, again, as I said, he had learned meditation under another Buddha, and he had become a noble one, an Arya. He wasn't someone who was thick-headed. And two things. One is, this Brahma of the Buddha's time was worshipped by people, but he himself made himself visible to people to encourage them to be inspired by the Buddha. There are instances of this in the scriptures. He made himself visible at times to people who worshipped him, to make them interested in the Buddha. For example, there's a story of a young Brahmin man who became a monk under the Buddha, and then he became an arahant, completely pure. And he was going on alms round one day, house by house, and he came to the house of his mother, and his mother was there, and so Mahabrahma showed himself to this woman who was a Brahmin, and he told her how pure her son had become. So when people of that time saw that the great Brahma they worshipped is on his knees before the Buddha, they were amazed, and they instantly turned their minds toward the Buddha before he even preached anything, and they turned their minds towards the Dhamma that he taught. So the way the great Brahma went to the Buddha and also went to help the Buddha by showing himself to encourage their faith in the Buddha, this shows that if one really wants the Dhamma, the celestial beings that are nearby will surely protect one, just the way this Mahabrahma, this great Brahma, helped the Buddha. So because of this Brahma, people turned towards the Buddha and to the Dhamma he preached and listened respectfully. At present time, we don't have this powerful Mahabrahma urging, but when people who are respected and capable, who have practiced and are capable of explaining the Dhamma, combining theory and practice, when these encourage a person to practice, and one practices, then the virtues of the person who started the Dhamma, the Buddha, will appear. It is said that when one comes to see the Dhamma, one comes to see the Buddha too. So through one's practice, one comes to know the power of the Dhamma, and one develops faith in it through one's practice. If one meets people who are worthy of respect, or reads books which are worthy of respect, then faith and respect in the Dhamma and in the Buddha who taught it will arise. Even if one doesn't have faith in individuals, faith in the Dhamma will surely arise. If faith and respect arise, then one will want to learn and will come to hear about the method of practice. And when one has learned the method of practice, Those who want to gain benefit will surely practice according to the instructions. This is systematic practice. So if one has practiced the trainings of sila, morality, samadhi, concentration, and panya, wisdom, according to the instructions, then surely one will become free of the obstacles called the nivaranas that prevent us from being a good person and prevent us from having clean physical, verbal, and mental behavior. When one is free, when one's mind is free of this dirt, then the Dhamma, which is hard to see and therefore profound, the Dhamma which is profound and therefore hard to see, will become apparent, will become easy to see. We can see how, if we trace back cause and effect, that this all comes to be as a result of the request to the Buddha by the Mahabrahma, the great Brahma, to teach. So I'll repeat this once more, and just going in reverse with cause and effect. The Dhamma, which is difficult to see and therefore profound, will surely become evident when the nivaranas are removed, the obstacles. For those to be removed, one must practice systematically, practice respectfully and with meticulous care. Systematic, careful practice can only happen when one has learned the method of practice. So one needs to listen to the correct method, listen carefully, that's all. If one knows the method, then one simply has to apply it systematically. If one has listened to it and applied it and come to know the benefits and the power of the Dhamma, then one will come to have faith in the method and the person who taught it. One will come to have faith in the teacher and in the teachings. For faith to arise at first, there needs to be a request from a respected person. When a respected person, or possibly through reading a respected book, when a respected person makes the request, then faith, which had been sleeping, awakens. When people worthy of faith are at the forefront, then faith in the teacher and what is taught is sure to arise. If one has faith, one will search for a method and listen to it. When one has gotten a method, one will surely put it into practice. If one applies the practice, to the extent one practices, the obstacles, the dirt will be removed, and what was difficult to see will become clear, plain to see, obvious. And this series of cause and effect that is described in the text, it corresponds exactly to what occurs today when yogis practice. So, I want to encourage the yogis to make the most out of the remaining time here. There are yogis who have listened, who have applied the practice very carefully, and who have gained continuity of mindfulness and have momentum in their practice. These yogis should keep on going, keep on practicing, so that they can continue to develop knowledge in the remaining time. Some yogis do not yet understand what it means to respect the practice and apply it carefully and continuously. And some yogis may have only been practicing here a short time. These yogis still have time to overcome the obstacles in their way and develop good mindfulness if they make up their minds to try. So in the remaining days, may all of you here be able to make effort systematically, battling and destroying the obstacles, the nivaranas, which cover over the true Dhamma, so that what was hard to see and therefore profound, so what is profound and therefore hard to see becomes plain to see. That's all.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.